the random.
Coming up on this week's episode of Hip Hop Now Podcast, November 9th, 1993, two classic hip hop albums dropped on the same day.
Let's get right to the business.
Read these headlines. This album must be gone. This album must be gone.
Classic albums are
Permanent Hip Hop Podcast.
What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas, and this is Hip Hop Now Podcast Extra, a podcast designed to catch you up on all things hip hop music and culture that happened throughout the week. Returning listeners, what up? Appreciate your support. Keep sharing. New listeners, welcome to a podcast that's all about, all kinds of stuff in hip hop, basically news and perspectives. But today we're going to do an extra. And the extra is when we focus in on one topic at hand. So this is somewhat news and this is somewhat perspective. So you kind of get the same thing, right? Same thing, right? Follow the movement, though, on Instagram and Twitter at Vegas World INC. And please know that this podcast is available anywhere you listen to podcasts. Just search for Hip Hop Now and you will find it. Really quick, if you subscribe to the audio stream, you already know that there's a podcast called That Time in Hip Hop, an audio version, but there's also a video version available on YouTube that you can check out. It happens sometimes every week, sometimes every other week, but there's a good 21 shows up there that you could check out, and that's all about taking you back in time, remembering a date that an album dropped or an event happened or award show or a movie, all related to hip hop. We give you facts. We give you a little bit of what rumors, a little bit of our perspective on things that happened during that time. It's really, really dope and educational for those who are new to hip hop or new to some of that old school stuff. And, it's a nostalgia trip for those who were there, who lived it. The last video we did was on when Scarface dropped the song I Seen a Man Die off of the album The Diary. And we get into that, and we get into a little bit of the early 90s horrorcore. So if you want to know about all of that, check it out. It's on the B-Roll Network on YouTube. It's called That Time in Hip Hop. Just search for it. Now we're going to get into our own history here, right here on this podcast of Hip Hop Now Podcast. The year was 1993, November 9th to be exact. So we've come up on the 25th anniversary of two undoubtedly classic hip hop albums. They both dropped on the same day. I remember going to buy both for different reasons. I think it was more of a case. Well, let's just tell you what it is. If you haven't seen the cover, on November 9th, 1993, A Tribe Called Quest dropped their third album, Midnight Marauders, and Wu-Tang Clan dropped their debut album, Into the 36 Chambers. I knew both of these albums were coming out on the same date. I knew both of these albums were highly rated in a number of magazines. I believe the source gave the Wu 5 mics. I think they gave Midnight Marauders 5 mics. If not, they gave it 4.5. I'm thinking 5. Should be 5. But nevertheless, I knew both were highly anticipated. Now, when it came to Tribe, I loved the Low End Theory album. Still my favorite Tribe Called Quest album. So with this being the follow-up, I definitely was going to pick it up. Wu-Tang, they had won me over with Protect Your Neck, Method Man, and eventually Cream. Just hearing those records, hearing Can It Be, on a mixtape, I already knew I was buying this album. So let's break down the albums themselves. Make sure to leave your comments in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about these albums as I go through them. But let's start with A Tribe Called Quest, Midnight Marauders. This is their third album, coming off of the classic, basically groundbreaking when it comes to the use of jazz samples and hip hop, as far as the fusion of those two and how it sounds seamless thanks to Q-Tip's vision for sampling. And it really was a album that, you know, no one thought could be topped. Some feel like Midnight Marauders did top it or improved upon it. I can agree with the production and the tightness of this album, the overall sound being the improvement. Is it the better album? Who knows? But nevertheless, there's 14 tracks on here. And I think the first thing that caught my eye when I saw the album cover was that there were like multiple covers and in the liner notes and everything, because A Tribe Called Quest got damn near every hip hop person they knew, East, West Coast, and all that, to put a pair of headphones on and appear on a cover of their album. So the version that I have has Too Short, Heavy D, Cool Mode D, Grandmaster Flash, the Beastie Boys, Chuck D, Large Professor, Africa Bambaataa, the Jungle Brothers, De La Soul, Ice-T, MC Lyte, Busta Rhymes, Diamond D, Crazy Legs. You know what I'm saying? Like it's mad. Houdini's on here, Beat Nuts. And this is just one of the covers or one of the groupings of individuals. There's some with Buckshot on it, all that. I think LL is on one now that I think about it. Probably one of the dopest ideas for an album cover ever. Because what it did, at least for me seeing this, it said that A Tribe Called Quest must be some really cool and popular dudes amongst their hip hop peers to have them all appear on the cover. Like, it's not like all these dudes were signed to Jive Records, you know. So I wonder about the backstory of that, but nevertheless, it was dope. I remember not even knowing what Marauders meant at the time, because I was like, Midnight Marauders, you know, it just sounds strange. Knowing that, you know, they're going marauding for ears, stealing ears, whatever the case may be. And that was cool, but that didn't mean the album was going to be dope. That didn't mean that it was going to even come close to what Low End Theory did for them with Check the Rhyme and songs like that. Well, nevertheless, as history will tell you, it did what it did, man. It was a monster, man, led by the lead single Award Tour. When I heard Award Tour, I was like, oh, they keeping the party going. Award Tour is the type of beat and song that just feels good when you hear it. That's how I felt when I first heard Award Tour and I saw the video. I was like, man, A Tribe Called Quest is here to stay, man. You hear this track? Like, Phife was in his bag, rest in peace. Q-Tip was in his bag on a record. I think De La Soul was in a video, I believe. Man, it just felt like, I can't wait, man. I gotta have this album. That's kind of something that's missing today from anticipating albums. Like having that single that just tells you like, yo, this, you hear a single and you say, yo, this album's going to be crazy. Like you already know because you heard a single. Nowadays, you kind of, there's like a rollout. Sometimes the albums just drop out of nowhere and you just gobble it up. And sometimes that, you know, it takes away because in the past, you know, you had to listen to a record and watch a video and be hyped. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't still exist, but everybody in hip hop, for the most part, was anticipating this album. Some of the standout tracks for myself, obviously, Award Tour, Sucker Nigga. The thing about Sucker Nigga, let's talk about that real quick, is I think that was the first time any rapper talked about why in hip hop and in the African American community, mainly where the poor people live, the ghetto, why they use the word. And to be honest, look, if I didn't know what Marauders meant, I also didn't know why it was being used. You know, it was just part of lingo to me. And to have Q-Tip sum it up as a term of endearment and break it down. And yeah, we didn't all buy the definition of why, especially back then. There's a lot of people who just wasn't buying that. But it was an attempt to, let the world know this is why. And I thought it was dope that it came from A Tribe Called Quest, because A Tribe Called Quest is not a group known for having many cuss words or slurs or whatever on their albums. It's just not. So for it to come through them, I thought that was kind of dope. That's what makes me like the song. I really love Midnight, We Can Get Down, obviously Electric Relaxation. Keep It Rolling is dope. Keep It Rolling, another record. Large Professor's like, yo, Queens represent, buy the album when I drop it. Album ain't come out until like 15 years later. Man, we thought Large Professor was about to drop an album, y'all. And trust me, hip hop fans were excited. And it didn't happen. So that's that. The Chase Part 2, like that. Obviously, Lyrics to Go with the Minnie Riperton sample. I think God Lives Through might be on the low my favorite. One thing that happened with this albums, and that happens with classic albums, you have that one record that you keep on repeat. Award Tour was that for me, and then it became Midnight for a long time. Then it was like Electric Relaxation. Then it was Oh My God, mainly because they shot the video literally right around the corner from my block. I was there for the video shoot. There's a ton of videos I'm not in, y'all. You know why? I was on set. You know why I'm not in those videos? I am very impatient. I did not realize that videos just took so long to film. I just couldn't hang around, so I just bounced. But you know what I'm saying? Like you get these tracks that are your favorites, and you kind of, run with them and listen to them all the time, or as far as on repeat. But God Lives Through became that for me after a while, because it's such a fitting end to this album, man. And the like, I know a lot of people didn't like the whole like voicemail type woman. Back then, I guess it would have been Answer Machine voice that was on that. But I like that. It was the Midnight Marauders tour guide. And you had all these, like, it was just a very dope project for a very dope time. And honestly, A Tribe Called Quest wouldn't make another album in this vein probably until the last one, even though that's decisive, because there are a couple of Tribe Called Quest fans who don't like it. But November 9th, 1993, man, when this came out, man, it was on repeat. It was just dope, man. I just kept listening to it, man. I listened to it taking a bus back from the record store, listened to it again in the house, probably a couple of times, definitely listened to it going to school, that week. It was just really dope, man. And if you never heard this album, which is crazy, and you're a hip hop fan, and maybe you're young, or maybe you're just coming along and you want to know what the big fuss is about Midnight Marauders, it is a hands down classic hip hop album out of 1993, celebrating its 25th anniversary, and it aged well. I listened to it today. And I was instantly, transported back in time to 1993, and I had a lot of the same feelings and emotions listening to it, and it was all good feelings and emotions. Obviously, there are records on here I don't really like, but that's besides the point. It's not enough to have me not call this a classic album. So Midnight Marauders, Tribe Called Quest. Dope album, classic, historical, all that good stuff. So now the other album that dropped in November 9th, 1993, Into the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers, the debut album of Wu-Tang Clan, 12 songs deep, it's not even that long, you know what I'm saying? Brand new group that used kung fu movies to, first of all, their name comes from a kung fu movie, Wu-Tang Clan. 36 Chambers is another kung fu movie. They sampled a lot of sounds and scenes from kung fu movies. And it's crazy because I know in my neighborhoods and the other ghetto neighborhoods in New York City as I was around, like back in the days, the early 90s, 80s, like kung fu movies used to come on TV like every Saturday on in New York. I think it was like Channel 11. There was kung fu movies on like in the morning too, like 11 a.m. So you had to get up and just see which one they was going to show. You know what I'm saying? And it was either in the morning or it was in the afternoon. I can't remember. But nevertheless, a lot of dudes in the hood were huge fans of kung fu movies. A lot of these movies. And now you have a group that essentially has a gimmick that could have easily been one and done with their album. Easily. Because, obviously that whole culture of the old school kung fu flicks and buying them and watching them and knowing them and comparing and, talking about those movies, that culture kind of went really underground. And Wu-Tang could have went with them, but this was unprecedented because it wasn't just that theme that was an attraction. It was the fact that you had like a 9-man group. I think it was, if we counting somewhere around there. Who's counting? Leave it in the comments. But you had this big ass group of MCs that we've never seen before. Not a group like that where everybody's taking turns on the mic. With the lead single, Protect Your Neck, very low budget. If you go back now and look at that joint, man, it is very low budget. You could tell dudes ain't really got no money. They just on the block and they just whatever. Wherever we can go to film parts of this, that's what we doing. Anchored by the at least the notoriety of the Genius, because we knew about the Jizza, the Genius, because he had a solo record deal back in the day, a couple of years before, I should say. So there was that element, and we knew RZA, who was Prince Rakeem, from a single he had. I think maybe he had an album, I don't remember, but the joint, Ooh, We Love You, Rakeem, you know what I'm saying? So we kind of knew him also, but this was just different, and the beat was dope. The MCs were dope. Obviously, wasn't a fan of them, everybody, but it was just like, yo, who are these cats and what's this dope beat? And the crazy part is, like, their songs would leak one by one. So Protect Your Neck was on TV, but then the Method Man video came out, right? So that was the other one, because that was the B-side, and everybody was feeling that joint too, like, yo, these Wu-Tang cats is alright. But then I heard, Can It Be? And I was like, yo, what is that? I did not know that was still the Wu-Tang Clan, because it was so different from what I had already heard. And then I heard Cream, and I was like, okay, when this album come out, I'm buying it, hands down, because not only these cats weren't just what they gave us with Protect Your Neck. Put it this way, all four of those records are completely different from each other in tone and everything. They're completely different. And I guess what I started to realize was, they're not just going to do huge posse cuts. Method Man is a solo record. Protect Your Neck is a posse cut. Can It Be is just two of the dudes. And Cream is a different combination of two of the dudes in the group. This is kind of dope because it's not what I expected. So lo and behold, when 1993 came and I went to the store to pick up Midnight Marauders and get into the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers, I couldn't wait. And I knew it would be totally different from A Tribe Called Quest. I knew A Tribe Called Quest was a different sound, maybe a safer sound, but I knew Wu-Tang was going to be something different. But I didn't know what. Bring the Ruckus comes on. The beat is just like, the sound of this album is just really dirty, like really grind. It gives off a certain feel. Like, see, in the early 90s, hip hop, especially in New York, the grimier it was, the more we liked it. You know what I'm saying? But this was kind of like, nah, we wasn't in no huge studio nowhere. We crafted this together by ourselves. So Bring the Ruckus comes on, and I'm like, yo, this joint sound alright. It's not many songs. I already heard 4, and this is 5, so this is good. Shame on a Nigga came on, and I was in. I was like, yo, this group is here to stay, man. There's no way they can fall off after this album. Clan in the front, Jizza, killed it. You know what I'm saying? Wu-Tang 7 Chambers, dope. Obviously, Can It Be? Then the Mystery of Chess Boxing comes on. That's dope. Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to F with. There is only one record on here that I would skip back in the days, but I don't skip it anymore. And that's Tears. I love the beat to Tears. Well, the record Tears, not 2 Tears. I don't start crying. But I didn't love the rapping. You know what I'm saying? Now, what I love about it today is I think it's because I'm more familiar with the group and the strengths and weaknesses of the MCs like You God and RZA. I think what I really like about it is like even how it starts, like how they got a skit, right? And you could tell, man, they don't have sounds, and it's, put it this way, around this time or a little bit after, the skits that Bad Boy was doing sound like movies. This was just straight. RZA made the gunshot noise with his mouth, and then everybody reacted like somebody got shot. I always wondered, like, is somebody going to come and add a gunshot when they make money? But I think that's what I like about it. I like the fact that this album was a bunch of dudes coming together to create something really dope and unique and fresh to the game, to the East Coast. I mean, even back then when they were doing shows, they had the Kung Fu flicks playing on like a big projector in the background. Just a dope album. I'm telling you, I really do not skip a record on here. It's 12 songs, and some people may feel like that's short, but that was fine back in 93. You know what I'm saying? We didn't want 27 tracks. We did not want that. Like, we wanted it until we got it. Like what? Mecca and the Soul Brother. Like, as much as I like Mecca and the Soul Brother, I felt like it was too long after a while because you kind of got into a mode of the album's done in like, close to an hour. And when that last record go off, you can't wait to get back to the next record. But when you got a whole bunch of songs, it's like it was going to take forever to get back to that beginning. But yeah, man, just a very dope album. One thing about this album that, changed for me later, I wasn't a big Ghostface fan as an MC. My favorite MCs on here was obviously Method Man. He was a standout. I liked Raekwon. I really liked Inspector Deck. I thought Inspector Deck was dope. Like every verse he spit was crazy. From Cream to Clan in the Front, all of it. Protect Your Neck, everything. Who else? Genius, obviously. I like the Genius rhymes a lot. I didn't like not Capadonna, Master Killer. But I wasn't a Ghostface fan now. I'm a huge Ghostface fan now, but I wasn't. I liked Ghostface on Can It Be, but there was something about his style of rhyming that made me feel like it was a lot of hype, but the bars wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? Like his performance, he had a lot of energy with it, but he wasn't really saying anything ill to me at that time. It wasn't until like Iron Man and definitely Only Built for Cuban Links where his personality became his substance. You know what I'm saying? And that's what made, because it's not like, oh, Ghost is an intricate rapper like that, and that's not even a slight. It's just the truth. He's not a rapidy rap rapper trying to bar you to death. Ghostface is like a visual type dude. You know what I'm saying? He's a dude. Ghostface is the dude on your block that went out last night and you can't wait for him to tell you the entire story about it because of the way he delivers the story. You get what I'm saying? That's what I mean. Like, you love to hear him tell a story. You know what I'm saying? And his rhymes are always stories. But I think for me back then on Into the Wu-Tang, it was so many different members and certain members just stood out for me. So, you naturally start anticipating them more than anybody. And I just wasn't a big fan of Ghostface on that. I was a big fan of Old Dirty. I was like, that dude's crazy, man. He kind of like singing and like, you know what I'm saying? just wilding, you know what I'm saying? I remember seeing a video and his name popped up like Old Dirty Bastard. I was like, yo, these dudes are crazy. Like, is this dude old? Oh, like what? I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? Rest in peace, ODB, the real ODB. But yeah, man, 1993, man, this album dropped, and I couldn't get enough. Just like I said with the Tribe album, heavy rotation, both of them, back and forth, back and forth. I just, it was just like hip hop heaven. You know what I'm saying? It was a great day for hip hop. It was a great week, whatever. You talked about it with your friends. We talked about the skits, the Torture skit on the Killer tape on 36 Chambers. Like the skits were classics. You know what I'm saying? And also big shout out to my alma mater, Morgan State University, one of the first places, strictly hip hop. A show that I eventually, years later, will become a host of is who, the Wu shout out on this joint based off of the fact that, B More was showing the Wu love before New York was really on it. It's before the album came out and all that, but nevertheless, man, classic albums. Both albums are classics. And one thing I like to say to kind of tie this up is that if there's one thing that is missing from hip hop albums today, and I think the last time it truly happened was Good Kid, Mad City, Kendrick Lamar's album, is you feeling like this album is going to take you on a journey from beginning to end, a journey of discovery, not too difficult to understand and to, you can really flow through from song to song. A lot of albums aren't created that way now. A lot of albums are created to definitely have a bunch of radio singles, and that's not always a bad thing, but never feel like a cohesive, well thought out plan of an album. They just don't, dudes just give it a title, give it a cover, and you just rock with it. Like, I love Pusha T's Daytona. I know it's only 7 songs, but I couldn't tell you what the concept of that entire album is. I couldn't tell you why it's called Daytona and we looking at Whitney Houston's drug-filled bathroom. Like, and I couldn't tell you. It's not clear. And it's not just that album, because I love that album, but it just doesn't happen enough. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it would be a bad thing. I think people still like it. I think Good Kid, Mad City was a prime example of that. Young cats and older cats love it. Why? Because it's a journey from beginning to end. And Into the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers is that. Midnight Marauders is that. You can literally hit play and just rock out to the end of it. And it's like having a good meal. You know what I'm saying? It's like you go to a soul food restaurant. And yeah, the food is good. But is it really better than when your mama cook it at home? Unless your mama can't cook, then who knows? That's going to do it for me for this week. Go out and support both of these albums. If you don't own them or you lost them or whatever, go and buy them. They still get paid, you know what I'm saying? And you want to show that love to these two classic albums that dropped on the same day, November 9th, 1993. It's a dope year for hip-hop. Please know that you can subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. But most importantly, share with people you know enjoy this kind of content. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at VegasWorldINC. And until next time, y'all, I am not a critic. I'm a fan. Peace. Drop it on the random.